What's happening, good people? Welcome to the channel. I'm Wes, aka Mr. Budget Watch, and today we are going to be doing an episode of Watch Wars. Now you can see we're doing this a little bit different. There's no scores in this one because the watches are similar but too different to do a regular episode. So the reason why I wanted to put these two together is, well, you can see they look quite similar, but again they are too different to do a proper comparison on. I just wanted to show them side by side, obviously, because of the aesthetics. So obviously, on the right is the Hamilton, on the left is the Islander. And well, the reason why I wanted to, show them is because, if you look at the case shape, they're both quite similar. You can see, we've got a bit of a angle there, and then we've got a nice, flow there. And then, the lugs are quite similar in shape. The Hamiltons are a little bit more squared off at the top, whereas, the Islander is, a little bit more rounded, but the case shape is, it's quite similar. We've both got fixed bezels. This one has a sandblasted finish, and this one has brushed. But that's personal preference. I personally prefer the sandblasted on a field watch, just how I like it. Also, the crown on the Hamilton, you can see, is quite a bit wider, which does make it a little bit easier to use. But then again, it needs to be because this is a mechanical. So the only way to actually get the watch to work is by winding it. Whereas this watch, you can actually just pop it on the wrist, on your wrist, and it will work eventually after you've wore it for a little bit. Or you can actually manual wind it as well. So that's one of the benefits of an automatic. You can either wind it using the rotor in the back, which I will show you if you're not familiar. So you can see we've got this rotor here, and when that spins, it actually puts energy into this portion of the watch right here, and that actually turns everything it needs to get the watch to run. Whereas a mechanical watch doesn't have a rotor, so that means that you have to be the physical input to get the watch to work. So the advantage of this is it's got a huge power reserve. I think it's 80 hours, which is just insane. It's actually double that what you get in a automatic. Now there are automatics with around 80-hour power reserve, but you're going to be paying a premium for them, whereas a mechanical is a little bit cheaper to get that same power reserve. So that's one of the benefits of mechanical. You can wind this up, wear it for a day, pick it up 2 days later, and it'll still be working. You can't do that with an automatic though. You put the automatic down, and after its power reserve is run out, which is shorter than this, then it's going to need wearing and winding again. This one is just it just lasts longer, is what I'm getting at. But moving on to those dials, and you can see they're quite similar. We've got the little triangle indices. The Hamilton's got triangles all the way around, but the Islander throws in a couple of batons as well, just to mix things up a bit. I personally prefer the more classic approach that the Hamilton takes, but again, that's just personal preference. I also prefer the vintage look of the indices as well, with the sort of faux patina look. I just think it pairs nicely with the vintage style. Whereas on this one, it's a little bit more modern in my opinion. Because we've got those batons thrown in, and also the colour as well. It's it's a little bit more modern in my opinion. You also notice the handset is quite similar too. Obviously on the Hamilton they're a little bit more slender, a little bit smaller, but you can see the second hand is very, very similar, but it's just a little bit bigger on the Islander, as are the main hands as well. They're very, very similar in like syringe style, but because the diameter of this one is bigger, this is a 38, this is a 40. The Hamiltons are done to size, whereas the Islanders needed to be bigger because it's a bigger diameter. So there is one other area I wanted to talk about as well, and that is the loom on these two. And do you know what? My other Hamilton that I've got, my other Khaki, the loom isn't very good. And I think it's because the loom is actually black. And it's just not as strong as it perhaps could be. The one on this one though is considerably better, but which is actually better out of the two? I think it's the Hamilton, I would like to say. I mean, it's very, very close. Mark has done a really good job, with the loom on this one. But I just give it to the Hamilton. I think that it's just a nicer balance, the loom. Whereas on Mark's Islander, the hands are a lot brighter than the indices, where in the Hamilton, you know, it's a little bit duller, but it matches a lot better. And, you know, this is definitely more legible in low light, I will say that. But this one, it just has a nicer look. So, you know, again, swings and roundabouts, better in low light, looks a little bit nicer. So take that as you will. You can also see we've got that 12 and 24 hour. We've got the 12 and 24 hour. This is a no date, which I do prefer because I love the symmetry and the balance. This one has, you know, the date, which does, you know, detract from that a little bit, but it is functional, so it's swings and roundabouts. Branding, I think I prefer the Hamilton. It's just more clean and more minimal. Just you can see we've got the Hamilton branding printed, whereas the Islander's got their logo and then automatic and the water resistance. To be honest, I prefer Hamilton's approach in this regard because, you know, it's just cleaner, looks more minimal. And I think, again, it more ties in with that vintage look. But all the specs are on the back of this case anyway, so, you know, if you need that, you've got that. You can also see sweeping wise for the movements, both are 21,600 per hour. So you can see, you know, they both sweep at the same rate. So not one of them is high beat and the other is not. So let's take a look at the profiles of the case. So you can see this one is a fair amount thicker. So this is over 12mm and this one is just over 8. And you can see we've got that little bit of excess here, and that is from, I'll just pop the Hamilton down a second, from the exhibition case back. You can see, you know, that does add quite a bit of thickness. Now, I mentioned in my review, I think Mark should drop this feature because the, you know, the Seiko movement isn't a pretty movement to look at. I would rather see a nicely decorated case back instead, and it would make the watch more wearable because it would be thinner. Just my opinion. And then obviously with a Hamilton, you know, you've got, I'll have to just take the strap off a sec and show you. So the strap is a Barton, by the way, if you're interested. And that is the case back on the Hamilton. And that is what I would prefer to see on the Islander. You can actually see what it's done to the strap as well. I never noticed that before. It's actually left an imprint. That's really cool. But anyway, screw down as well. Both are screw down. But yeah, really good quality strap as well, by the way, this. Not sponsored or anything, it's just I really do like this strap on this watch. Profile as well, you can see Hamilton do some crazy curvy profiles, and this just hugs your wrist just, oh, incredibly. I love the drilled lugs as well. So convenient for swapping out straps. But yeah, really, I love this profile, really slim. It's almost like a quartz in terms of its like relative thickness. And it just wears beautifully on wrist. Whereas this one, like I said in the review, you know, if it had that exhibition case back, you would get that benefit of those slightly downturned lugs. But because of that bit there, it just sits a little bit awkward and high on wrist for a field watch. And although it's a comfortable watch, don't get me wrong, get it off this, you know, the strap what it's on, which I do have some minor complaints about. But it is a comfortable watch. Single pass, you know, it's good. NATO, I think it adds too much bulk. A two-piece NATO style strap, really comfortable. Two-piece leather, really comfortable. But yeah, this strap weight it comes with is not the best. But yeah, I do really love the profile. So I think if Mark were ever to make a version 2, it really needs slimming down. Obviously that exhibition caseback would take off a couple of mil, and it would just make the watch so much more wearable and you know, enjoyable to wear as a field watch. But you know, that's just my preference. So yeah, price wise, we're looking at quite expensive for this one. This is like over 380 quid, I think. This one you can pick up for £140, the Islander, but then you've got to pay import taxes. So that probably will take it up to around £170, I want to say. Could even be more, I don't know. But yeah, if I were to pick two, if I didn't have either of these watches and I was looking to buy one for, say, a first field watch, which would I go for? I'm sorry, Mark, it's the Hamilton. It just has to be. I do like that watch, but you know, there's just something about this one. I think it's the ergonomics and the design that does it for me. I just love this style of watch. Mark Crystal is better than this one, by the way, though. Both are sapphire, But this one, you can see, you know, there's no AR coating, and it is a nightmare to photograph and video. Whereas Mark's, you know, does have some AR. You can just see there, it doesn't like blow out as much. So yeah, Mark Crystal is better because it's got the AR. I'm not sure why Hamilton didn't put AR on the Khaki mechanical. Even some clear AR would have not detracted away from the sort of vintage look to it. If it was coloured like a blue, then I'd said no, definitely. But a clear AR coating, I wouldn't have said no to that, to be honest, for the price point. So that's probably my only negative about this watch, is just the glare that you get in really bright light situations, whereas this one handles it a lot better. But again, if I was to only pick one Hamilton, it's got the ergonomics, it's got that awesome power reserve, it's got the history, really nice and easy to use crown. And yeah, more compact, a little bit lighter as well because it's a mechanical, so it's not as heavy as the Islander. But again, you know, this is not like you know, this one is better than this one. This watch is considerably more expensive than this. And this is a really great watch in its own right. I'm not detracting anything away from that. It's just the Hamilton is better done as a whole. But this is still a great watch in its own regard. And you know, I can still recommend one. Even though, you know, like I said, I would, if I had to pick one or the other, I would pick the Hamilton. But, you know, that's just a personal preference. But yeah, if you're on a bit more of a budget and want a Hamilton look, then, you know, this is a very, very good option. But obviously, if you've got the resources, then I would definitely pick the Hamilton. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this one. Let me know down in the comments, which would you pick? Would you go Hamilton or would you go the Islander? Let me know. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads. And of course, follow me on social media at Mr. Budget Watch. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.